There are no shortcuts to success, nor is there a universal recipe for stardom. Even the most popular artists of all time were nobody at some point and had to scrounge, toil, and claw their way to establishment. One of my favorite examples of a band who attempted to cheat this process is the supergroup Art of Anarchy. While it can be argued that a supergroup is exempt from these unspoken rules as they are comprised of already established musicians, this was not entirely the case for Art of Anarchy. Brothers John and Vince Voda had no proper standing in the music industry prior to Art of Anarchy, but rather connections to already established musicians. In this video, we will explore the two lineups of Art of Anarchy, the demise of both, and my personal theories as to why Art of Anarchy ended the way it did. Art of Anarchy's existence dates to late 2011 and early 2012. The band stems from a long-term friendship between the Voda brothers and Ron Bumblefoot Thal, best known as the solo artist and the former guitarist for Guns N' Roses. Though the Vodas were primarily involved in the business side of the music industry as opposed to the creative side, they along with Bumblefoot decided to put their dreams to test and record a debut album. The debut was planned to be a compilation album featuring multiple singers from various bands and genres, likely obtained through Bumblefoot's strong social standing and multitude of friendships within the industry. Eventually, John Moyer of Disturbed was recruited as the bassist and the album's recording began. 10 full-length songs were recorded for their debut. Now came time to recruit singers for each song. One of which who was sought after was Scott Weiland, former lead singer for Stone Temple Pilots and Velvet Revolver. Scott Weiland being an obvious choice for his natural talent and versatility. After discussions with Weiland's management, it was decided that Scott Weiland would now be singing over the entire album, in addition to becoming the permanent frontman for Art of Anarchy. The compilation idea was scrapped and Art of Anarchy was now officially set to be a supergroup. 2 music videos were filmed, a photo shoot took place, a label was found for the release of the debut, and talks were being made of a tour coming into fruition. The timing also worked out well for the established band members. Bumblefoot had just exited Guns N' Roses a year or so due to Slash rejoining the band. John Moyer was taking a break from Disturbed to finish up several new side projects. And lastly, Scott Weiland was no longer in Stone Temple Pilots. Weiland himself sang several years prior to being fired that he wanted to front 2 bands simultaneously. Though the Wildabouts and Art of Anarchy were not on the stardom of Stone Temple Pilots and Velvet Revolver, it still achieved his wish. A teaser with the songs Time Every Time Until the Dust Is Gone was released to YouTube, immediately gaining traction. Within a month, this teaser reached more views than Scott Weiland's official Modzilla video, and people in the rock community were anticipating Art of Anarchy. The band was informally being viewed as a sequel to Velvet Revolver. Art of Anarchy was also a hope from Scott Weiland fans that he may be finding proper foundation away from Stone Temple Pilots. There was light on the horizon, and many were excited for the entrance of Art of Anarchy. And then the light went dark. Within a few hours of the announcement, Scott Weiland immediately distanced himself from Art of Anarchy, saying he wished the band well but that he would be focusing on his new solo album Blaster instead. According to Weiland, Art of Anarchy was merely a one-off in-studio collaboration. This immediately confused the other members of Art of Anarchy, with Bumblefoot assuming damage control and emphasizing that there was enough time to dedicate to all projects. Bumblefoot stressed this point with his new solo album, Little Brother Is Watching, coming out within the same year as Art of Anarchy, much like Scott Weiland's Blaster. The subsequent months entailed an awkward simultaneous promotion and distancing for Art of Anarchy from the band and Weiland respectively. While Bumblefoot would attempt to build traction for the band by discussing the album's process, release date, and music videos, Weiland denounced the band upon every question pertaining to it. Things were made more confusing as Art of Anarchy released Till the Dust Is Gone, Time Every Time, and Small Batch Whiskey to YouTube and rock radio. The debut was eventually released in June with no acknowledgement from Weiland whatsoever. Art of Anarchy's debut was dead on arrival and only truly acknowledged by dedicated Scott Weiland and Guns N' Roses fans. Art of Anarchy's existence raised tensions on both sides of the band, especially from Weiland becoming frustrated over being frequently asked about it. This eventually led to Weiland outright dismissing Art of Anarchy as a quote-unquote scam from the beginning and giving no further explanation or elaboration on that statement. This comment was the final straw for the Voda brothers, and they proceeded to sue Weiland for not fulfilling his supposed obligations to Art of Anarchy. The lawsuit also emphasized how the album's performance, sales, and chart-wise suffered due to Weiland's frequent dismissal of the band. Weiland countersued shortly after, claiming the band appropriated his image and likeness incorrectly. Weiland further stressed that Art of Anarchy was merely an in-studio collaboration that he was never meant to be a full-time member of. The full details of the lawsuit are unknown, but what was for certain was Art of Anarchy was an anticlimactic flop. Later in the year, Scott Weiland would die on tour of a drug-induced heart attack, leaving Art of Anarchy with the emotional burden of a band member's death, in addition to the business drama surrounding them for most of the year. As gratitude to Weiland's contributions, Art of Anarchy made their debut album Free for Christmas, and expressed condolences for his loss, in addition to appreciation for his work. The album proves itself to be one of the most fascinating albums of Weiland's career. By far the heaviest album in his discography, as the debut is entirely comprised of alternative metal and post-grunge. Lyrically, it also features some of Weiland's most heartfelt poetry. Get On Down and Small Batch Whiskey are two notable songs as they carry on stories Weiland established on Sometimes Chicken Soup and White Lightning respectively. The tracks Till the Dust Is Gone, Death of It, Long Ago, and Aqualung are personal reflections of the state of Weiland's personal and professional life at the time of recording. Finally, The Drift, Grand Applause, and Time Every Time were confident glares into the future, much like the bridge of Dead and Bloated. Art of Anarchy also illustrated the natural talent of the Voda brothers, as John Voda primarily composed the entire album musically, whereas Weiland built his lyrics and melodies off of it. Overall, despite the circumstances of the album's recording, the record feels very natural and cohesive. It is truly a shame that Weiland abandoned the project so hastily, as Art of Anarchy had so much more to offer to his career than he gave it credit for. Being that Art of Anarchy was released after Blaster, this was the last album to be released while Scott Weiland was still alive. This gives an Ashes to Ashes vibe to Weiland's discography, as the records which began and ended his career are both dark, hard rock albums. With Art of Anarchy never having a proper takeoff, and with the dead frontman, what were to become of the band now? Much like Stone Temple Pilots, Art of Anarchy decided to push onwards with their passion post the loss of Weiland. It was announced that Creed's Scott Stapp would be assuming the role of frontman shortly after. This also seemed like a logical choice for a multitude of reasons. Among them being Stapp having a longer streak of sobriety than Weiland, Stapp possessing a variety of songs he wanted to share with the band, and most importantly, Stapp giving complete commitment. All these traits gave hope to the band, and the promise of a future for Art of Anarchy existed once more. Writing and recording for Art of Anarchy's second full-length album, The Madness, began shortly after. The title track was the first song to be released, a high-energy track reflecting on the mental breakdown Stapp endured a couple years prior. Art of Anarchy would promote The Madness with live shows, acoustic performances, and interviews. Excitement was ever present amongst all 5 members of the band. Though the album charted poorly on release, the title track charted reasonably on rock radio and received modest radio play. Much like Art of Anarchy was to Weiland's career, so too was The Madness a refreshing new step for Stapp's career. Half the album was written by Stapp and outside songwriters. These songs being ideas Stapp felt very passionate about and wanted to release to the world in some form. The other half, according to the liner notes, was written by all 5 members of Art of Anarchy. A change in expression from the debut album, which was primarily written by Weiland and John Voda. Whether all 5 members contributed to the songwriting process or not, it's clear Art of Anarchy was more excited to be presented as a band than a project this time. The newly added element of Creed fans also fueled hype for Art of Anarchy. Initially, it was rumored that Art of Anarchy would be the opening band for Guns N' Roses' Not in This Lifetime tour, but nothing came of it. Upon the initial Art of Anarchy tour ending, Stapp would be returning to the road as a solo artist for the remainder of the summer. His touring guitarist was on leave for the birth of his child, so Stapp recruited Bumblefoot for his acoustic tour. Bumblefoot excellently filled in Mark Tremonti's shoes, with both his singing and guitar playing. As was the case with Weiland, there was light on the horizon. A light for both Art of Anarchy and Stapp's friendships with Bumblefoot, Moyer, and the Vodas, and as was the case with Weiland, the lights soon went out. It was announced that Stapp would be headlining the Make America Rock Again tour in fall, with Art of Anarchy only featuring one performance date amid Stapp's tour. Upon this final performance in 2017, Art of Anarchy went silent for the remainder of the year. Stapp still addressed Art of Anarchy in interviews, emphasizing that he liked having multiple outlets for his music, as now he could write songs for his solo career, Creed, and Art of Anarchy. Come the end of the year, Stapp ceased touring to prepare for the birth of his fourth child. Art of Anarchy would continue to remain silent until February of 2018, when it was announced that Stapp was being sued by John and Vince Voda over failure to properly promote the madness. Much like the case with Weiland, the Vodas alleged Stapp's lack of promotion, in addition to prioritizing his solo career, damaged the performance of the madness commercially and cost the Vodas their recording contract. Stapp, Moyer, and Bumblefoot have never commented publicly on the lawsuit. The lawsuit is continuing as of this day. Overall, Art of Anarchy is one of the most interesting supergroups to arise in rock history, as it featured two singers with a talented but troubled past who were also prominent during the grunge scene. Art of Anarchy is also unique in the fact that the most famous member of their band was always the lead singer, as opposed to other supergroups where most members are established household names. Lastly, Art of Anarchy sued both their singers for the same reasons, despite Weiland and Stapp approaching the band with completely different perspectives. Art of Anarchy will forever be one of those bands that raises more questions than they answer. One can't help but wonder, if Stapp prioritizing his solo career over Art of Anarchy was such an issue, then why would Bumblefoot go on tour with him? Why was Stapp selected to headline the Make America Rock Again tour instead of Art of Anarchy? Lastly, what is to become of Art of Anarchy in the future, if anything at all? I personally believe Torrin Green, formerly of Fuel, would have been a more appropriate frontman for Art of Anarchy than either Stapp or Weiland, as Green's style of hard rock is more in line with what Art of Anarchy created than Stone Temple Pilots or Creed were. One thing can be said for certain though. Whomever the voters select next would be wise to make Art of Anarchy their sole priority.